breathing, like a sigh of relief that exams are over. And a little not too happy that school is starting again. But believe me, it's the earlier we start, the better, because this is a journey which is going to take us by storm. So we thought that we could, we did an orientation we did earlier. How many of you were there for the orientation we did in Jan? Okay, so some of you were there. Some were not, so maybe this will be the first time. And it's good to, okay. I'm Mrs. B, principal of Anand Poddar School, for those of you who don't know me. My team is there. Why don't you come and sit? Sit somewhere. Okay. I was talking to present grade 11 students who gone to grade 12, and we do this exercise every year. We talk to them at the beginning of the year, and then we talk to them at the end of grade 11, and just ask them how does it feel. It helps them to reflect on the year that has gone by and how to prepare for the next year. Also, it gives us some very valuable insights into what was the problem, what could we do better next year for the next batch. So it's great to get as much feedback as possible, because as a school we've always believed that we need to keep feeling the pulse of our children. They're changing so quickly, so fast. Every class, every batch that comes to us is different from the previous one. And so we need to keep our ears to the ground and try to pick up as many inputs from them as possible. So while I was talking to them, I realized something which actually prompted this orientation. We've never done this before. We've done an orientation for parents before children write their board exams, just when you take admission or you're looking at admission in the school. And then we do an orientation for the students when they come into school on the first day. But we've never done an orientation for parents after the children have finished their grade 10 exam and now they're beginning. So your mental framework is different, you're thinking differently, because at that point of time the board exams are on your head, so your mind is preoccupied with that. But this is a good time to begin. And when I was talking to the children, I realized one thing. And some children are here, so I think the message it's good that they get the message that in this journey that we're going to undertake in the next 2 years, the most hard hit are parents. So while we keep saying that children have a huge challenge ahead of them, and there's a big transformation that happens. It's a transition year, grade 11 particularly. We seldom think about what happens to parents. Okay? Because you're the ones who are going to, have to handle the change at home. For us, we're used to it because every year we see it. For you, it may be the first time. Okay? The child is changing. There's a transition. There's something different happening, and how do you cope with that? So we thought we'd do this session with parents, just kind of mentally prepare you for the journey, how to look at the big picture, the long-term goal, and not maybe the short-term immediate goal, to be watchful, at the same time not to be interfering too much. Okay? How do you handle this change? Okay? So one of the things that our school particularly feels it is our USP is that when we deal with parents and we deal with children, it's not just as teachers. We are parents ourselves. We've gone through this whole journey of parenting and going through children's grade, in this particular phase. Many of us have children who have been in this school, seen what happens to them firsthand. So it's going to be a lot of sharing of stories. Okay? I think it's, to begin with, I would just say that it's important at this, in this day and time for parents to be well informed. So keep your, like we said, we keep our ears close to the ground to feel to understand where they're coming from, what are their needs, why are they behaving in a particular manner, how is it different from the earlier batch of students. So it's important for parents also to keep a watchful eye, to keep yourselves informed on what's happening in the world, okay, what is changing. The times have changed not only from the time when we were in school, but I would say even the time when we started to work. When I started to teach and for my first batch of students, and I'm still in touch with them, and the students that we deal with now, very different. I've been here now 13 years, it's going to be the 14th year, and every batch is different. So our challenges are different, and we learn from them, and then we try to, loop in the feedback that we get from every class. Okay? So there are some suggestions we'll give you before you leave, but just to kind of tell you that what is important to bear in mind. So your children are now going to be studying subjects, fewer subjects, okay? Especially ICSE parents. How many parents whose children were in ICSE? Okay. So a large number of subjects that they have written exams for. Same number of subjects even for CBSE, but then they write fewer exams because they're clubbed into sciences are together and social sciences are together. Okay? But a large number of subjects, some which are of interest to the child, some the child is good at, some he is not, but he has to study all. There is very little choice. Okay? But in grade 11 and 12, he selected the subjects that he wants to study. Okay? Now that decision is taken already, that he wants to do science or commerce or humanities. In science, what subject, whether he wants to do biology or maybe something else, a non-bio science. In commerce, maths or not maths, which of course is not such an important decision right now. You can take a little later also. Does the child want to study humanities and pursue the liberal arts programs? All that now, those decisions are more or less taken by your children. They're already now enrolled. So that one big decision is taken. Which schools, which board, and which subjects to study. Okay? The good thing is that your children are going to study fewer subjects that he has opted for, hopefully. Okay? I do hope that there aren't parents who have compelled children to take up a subject. Okay? But I think times have changed. Parents do, even if they do give advice, they have an open mind, right? So it's not as if the child is feeling pressurized. Okay? So fewer subjects of their interest, so therefore it is easier. Okay? The path is that therefore easier. But the way they're going to interact with these subjects is going to be very different. Okay? It's now more do-it-yourself, it's more application, it's more in-depth. Okay? Even the math that they are studying is going to be very different from the math they did up to grade 10. Okay? They'll be more alphabets rather than numbers, they'll be doing trigonometry and calculus and a whole lot of new topics which they haven't been exposed to up to grade 10. Okay? So the way they interact with their discipline, the subject, is going to be different. Okay? There will be a huge jump. You already said it, and that's common knowledge. Okay? So, but it is not just a jump. It is how do you handle that change? Okay? That's going to be the challenge for us, okay, for your children and for you. You will not be able to maybe help them in the subject, in all the subjects that the child has taken, because maybe that's not your subject. Okay? So don't think that you have to be equipped to handle the child's studies. The child will become an independent learner. Okay? Will learn to take ownership. Okay? Learn to be responsible about his own learning. So that will change. You'll find a new independent child who starts to think for himself. Okay? And so you'll find a little bit of control going away. So there you'll have to let go. On a day-to-day basis, you cannot ask the child about his studies. You can ask him about how he's feeling and how he's adjusting. but not on a daily basis. You cannot now look into his day-to-day studies. Okay? Be prepared for that. Relationships. They are going to be in a new school, or maybe in the same school, but new students, a new peer group. Okay? Making friends, the socialization challenge. Okay? Some adjust very quickly, some take longer. Okay? Like I said, this is going to be a year of coping strategies. Okay? So be patient if your child is taking a little longer, but be watchful for any signs of it going above the board, and so you need help. Okay? So that will be what you need to. That's what you need to do. Interaction with friends, the peer group will become very important. There will be many more other distractions. Okay? You will have to strike the right balance. And if you find that the child is not talking to you as much as he used to up to standard 10, it's not a reason to worry. Okay? Because it happens to all of them. Because they're all in it now, facing a new life, a new phase of life they're in, and so they'll talk to each other more, and maybe talk to you or less. Okay? But don't panic on that. Again, you have to be watchful where you feel that it's gone beyond, reasonable limits. Okay? So that's something. Up to standard 10, the child generally thinks about himself based on what others think of him. His perception, his self-perception is based on what his teachers, what friends and relatives have told him. But now he start to form his own self-image. Okay? You have to support the child in that, in building a positive self-image. So I know these are all what everybody says, but it's so real that I thought it's important that we tell you now so that you mentally, we don't forget that. It's at the top of our minds when we're dealing with our children. Okay? The child will need, yes, a lot of emotional support. So all through, the term I normally use for teachers as well as for parents is be kind but be firm. Be kind but firm. That's the mantra. Be connected. So even if the child is not is not talking to you, is elusive, you try to find out what's happening with him without really feeling as if his privacy is being intruded. Okay? You can be around, be with his friends, know who his friends are. Okay? But allow a little bit. So it's that little bit of give and take, freedom to be given. Okay? But we had this big session on freedom with our grade 12 and what does freedom mean to children, but with responsibility. Okay? So they must realize that they are now being allowed to take decisions, but they also have to be prepared for the consequences. A little more than what, up to standard 10. Then they still shelter. Grade 11, they come into their own. So we do this exercise generally. Earlier we used to do this at the time of admission. They would fill up a form. But now we've made it crisper, but we keep talking to the children about how to start reflecting and introspecting and doing their own self-awareness exercise. How do you know yourself? So we know that the 2 years are rigorous and very challenging because one is, like I said, the subject that they're studying. The second is emotionally, they might feel out of depth. So as a school, we have designed through the years, we realized that based on our inputs from the students, we have designed our program such that there is a well-built, a very fleshed out life skills course built into the curriculum. Okay? Not a structured course, because every student is different, every batch is different, so we have a very personalized, customized approach. Every class is different, and the life skills coaches that we have will be tweaking their program according to the needs of the children. And that's a very integral part of the program. So, and these are counselors. as I'm talking about one of the life skills, we have one very young life skills coach who's a parent, who's just become a parent. And her baby's here. So the life skills program, and we've got 2 or 3 people who are doing this regularly. One is they get into the class, they talk to the children, but also a one-to-one counseling that if anybody wants help. Okay? And of course, as far as academic and technical studies and how do you max your 2 years, as far as that is concerned, we've designed a system of teaching, learning, assessing, such that, and following a certain path, a very, very clear path, such that the children, even if they are pursuing a lot of interest, because they want to study well, they also want to pursue some of their hobbies and interests, how do we ensure that we are able to do justice to all of that? Okay? And they still manage to do well in grade 12. Okay? So that's a very, very well-designed program of academics which we pursue. Again, we keep guiding and hand-holding children with respect to how to study. The study skills is not just about what to study, but how to study and how do you max and optimize your time. Okay? So I'd like to say that no, please. What do you think? Would you like to come here? That it's not these 2 years. Let it not be a zero-sum game. Let it be a win-win for all of us. Okay? Your children, and you have entrusted them with us. So we realize our responsibility. Okay? So let the school, the teachers, and the parents, and the child be on the same page. It's very, very important that we all on the same page, trying to give the best to our children. Okay? So it has to be a win-win for everyone. Okay? I was recently a part of a project which Michelle Obama has started in the US. It's called the Reach Higher Project, where they're looking at new ways and ideas. They're asking for ideas on how do we handhold children, how do we create processes and programs and tools which would help children right through their journey from school to high school and thereby then to college and remain connected with them. Okay? And with the kind of technology that we have today, it is possible. Okay? To a large extent, we have been able to do that in our school. So one of the ideas that we had presented, which we have been experimenting with, we've been using very extensively in our school, was selected, went up to the final stage. But the idea is that today it is possible to give our children much more than we could earlier with the help of technology. So in our own school, we've designed systems, and again, they are very, very closely monitored. So we understand the technology also brings its share of challenges. So it is used, but very judiciously. Whether it is Facebook, whether it is WhatsApp, which we don't really encourage, but it is used. It is a tool, or anything else that might, or Google apps, or Google groups, email. All of that we use judiciously, but the point is that we are connected with each other 24/7. Okay? And it's possible to do so. So it's not necessary that today we are meeting face to face. It may not be possible to meet so often. You all have your priorities. We have also work to do, and we want to use the time that we have with our children. So we may not meet physically face to face, but we are connected through a whole lot of medium or media, whether it is Gmail or whether it is email or it is WhatsApp or it is Facebook group, whatever. Okay? I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Okay? Important to say that in this journey of 2 years, it's very, very likely that a child may start very, make a big start. Okay? Start well. But the important thing is to keep that momentum, to sustain that momentum. It's a 2-year program, and we want the peak to happen at the end of 2 years. How do you keep the momentum going? So step by step, how do you build your children? Okay? Some children would start with a huge jump, some may take time. You'll need to understand your own child and don't compare, because someone may go faster or in a different way from your child. Okay? So don't compare there. So a step-by-step approach, which as a school we also follow. Wherever the child is, at any point of time, we try to take the child a little higher and then a little higher, and then by the end of 2 years, reach his potential, his maximum potential. Okay? Trying to see if I've covered most of the points that I wanted to. Yeah. So communication, and like I said, this is going to be 2 years of keeping in touch. We have used WhatsApp groups, but WhatsApp groups can become a little painful and irritating because it can, intrude into your time, your privacy. It could lead to spamming. So we don't generally, formally, we do not encourage WhatsApp groups. Okay? I was just thinking, we do have Google groups for every class. So the teacher is connected with every parent and every child. So one group for parents and one group for the children. See, we have Google groups. And every child will be given a Google account. See? But apart from that, I was just thinking today, what else can we do? Because, we've never done this before, but I'm thinking this is an opportunity to think of more ways of remaining connected. And not just with the school, amongst yourselves. Okay? It's very nice to share the challenge, the journey with somebody, not to be alone, not to feel that you're having to do it and I don't know, maybe I'm not doing the right thing. We're all the time self-doubting as a parent. Okay? So can we form some groups? For example, can we have a closed Facebook group? Or can we use the Google group? Can somebody start a blog if you're fond of writing and share your experience, and there could be a discussion forum. Okay? Many of you would have better technology solutions. We'd be most happy to use those. Okay? But it would be a good thing to do. We've not done this before, but the first time I'm saying, amongst yourselves, can you create some kind of a communication channel? Okay? And of course, let's use it in the best interest of children, not for petty things. Okay? Not to disturb someone, but just to come together and share. Because today is a world of, we're living in a world, in times of collaboration and sharing. Okay? Because that helps us in crowdsourcing ideas. We can do that. Also, that would help us to remain well informed. Somebody has some information on a particular course, or an exam, or a new idea. Okay? We could share it. Or a good article. As last year somebody had sent me an article, it was written by a professor from Stanford. And he said that, he was actually mentoring the freshman year students. And he said that when students come from all over the world, and this is Stanford, okay? Their applications, when we meet the children, we find that their applications or their resumes were much better than the children. The children come there, they have built their resume, okay? But they are not really that, because somebody has just kind of made them write those. But can we make? So therefore, there is a feedback for that. There's a lesson for us on that. Can we make our children genuinely what they want to project themselves to be? Okay? So if, for example, they do a community service program to enhance their application, then let that community program actually make a difference to their personalities, and not just for the sake of putting it as as something that adds another feature on their resume. Because today, recruiters as well as college admission personnel, they are very, very discerning. They can make out the real from the fake. Okay? And his whole article was about how as parents today, we are not letting our children stand on their feet. We are so ready to do everything for them. Filling out their application forms. You can help, but let them take their life in their hands. Okay? That's something that we don't generally do, especially in India. We are very overly, not just protective, but we're also trying to do things for our children. Okay? And then, of course, this Stanford professor said that he went back home and he felt this about students year after year. And one day he went back home and he was sitting at the dining table and they were having dinner and he was cutting meat for his child and offering. And then he realized that he was doing the same thing himself. Okay? So we are all guilty of doing it. Okay? But can we make a conscious effort to change some of that? Okay? If we could, we do a lot of career counseling for our children because we understand that our responsibility is not just for them to do well in their board exam. And then we have the integrated program, which is one of the ways we are hand-holding them. We have 2 full-time career counselors. A lot of universities who come into the school and do orientations, and we have a full calendar for that. The counselors are giving out alerts and giving information to parents at regular intervals at appropriate times. So there is a lot of hand-holding that happens there. But the important thing is that you need to seek advice, seek help. You have to be proactive. If you find there's something that you want help on, you need to, from day one, just be proactive and keep in touch with the school. Okay? Don't leave any problem to the end of the year. Okay? You feel there's something that's disturbing you about something, or you have any idea to share, please come and approach us. We're all very accessible. Okay? At this point, I'm going to ask you to speak with her. Okay. That's Akanksha. Akanksha is a management graduate from IIM Ahmedabad. She works with us full time, and then she took leave because she had a baby. But she's been doing extensive life skills program and workshops for our children, and they have found them very useful. And some of her learnings from dealing with children in grade 11 and 12, she's just going to share with you.
As if on cue, she wakes up. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure being here. I thought, let me add credibility to what I'm saying by carrying a child, so convinced I'm a parent, and therefore, in whatever small measure I understand your anxiety, I'm going to face it too, 15, 20 years from now. Well, just let me start by asking you a few questions. How many of you feel that your child spends more time with friends than at home or with you personally? How many of you feel? Please, let's just... I was that way as a teenager, I know, so here. I'm waiting for the hands to pop up. Okay, some hesitant. Alright, how many of you feel there's too much of mobile phones and iPads and tablets in your child's life? Okay. How many of you feel that sometimes your child acts contrary only for the heck of it, rebels just to make a point? Alright. How many of you feel that your child tries to avoid family functions and extended family gatherings? Oh yes, okay. So clearly, what is common between all of you is, and all of you have different children who are different individuals, but what is it that's common between all of you is the stage of life that your child is at, right? And despite that, and I'm talking now from my experience as a daughter, despite that, we keep talking of these issues again and again as if they were something new or they were created today. I mean, think back of your time as teenagers. Wasn't it fun to rebel? I mean, now Mom and I laugh about it, but it was fun and I just wanted to make a point, right? And therefore, the first thing I want to tell you is it's okay. This will pass. There will be a time when you will be laughing about all these ups and downs that you're going through with your child. That's the first thing. What really adds credibility to what I'm saying, and even if I say so myself, is the fact, like ma'am said, I've had the privilege of listening to a lot of inside stories from adolescents here in school itself, and I will be taking life skills for grade 11 this academic year as well. And based on what they share, and there's just so much inside, you might look at a face that's buried in mobile phone, You might think, this person does not care. But that's not true. Right? That's not true. There is so much happening within the child. It's a matter of connecting. It's a matter of connecting to that individual within and trying to get that out, which is not easy. There will be a barrier, there will be walls. You might not like the fact that the friends have a greater access to that inner world than you. But trust me, with time and she loves being on the stage just like me. With time and patience, you want the mic? Let's walk. Okay, so with time and patience, I think you will be able to dissolve the barrier. And I will keep going back and forth between my experiences as a daughter and as a life skills facilitator and personal counselor. With my mother, I asked her, and she agreed that teenage was a particularly frustrating time for her. And we were by no means golden children, my brother and I. But to understand this stage better, I just want to make a reference to a psychologist called Erik Erikson. He has written a theory on psychosocial development. You can go look him up because it's very interesting. It helps you understand your child much more. He describes 8 stages of development right from birth to death. And the stage in which adolescents fall is stage 5. He says at every stage we are trying to do something. There is a dilemma, there is a task we are trying to accomplish. If we succeed in that task, we move forward in life, we grow up, grow older with confidence, and if we don't, we end up living with low self-confidence very deep inside us. So it's important to understand that in adolescence, this stage is that of finding your own identity. Now you might think this is so obvious, I mean we've known this, but he says that it is about identity versus role confusion. If you read him up a little more, further he describes that at this age in adolescence, you want to experiment, you want to try out different behaviors, different attitudes, even different friends. And therefore you will see that teenagers try different hairstyles, they do all sorts of weird things, they buy weird things, they talk weirdly. I mean now it's weird, that time it was normal for me when I was a teenager. But it's a part of their growing up process. Please realize this is not them being weird, this is them experimenting and trying to build an identity. And it is very critical that they build an identity for themselves. All you can do is be ringside spectators and just be there for them when they need you, and they will need you. Take heart, even if they're teenagers, they will need you around. But let them find who they are. So the question he says for this stage is, who am I? Who am I? Right? They want to find out who they are, where their loyalties lie. They already know by now of their likes and dislikes because your children are in the later stage of teenage. But now they want to solidify that identity. Right? And if you allow them to do that on their own, they will go through this stage and become